Because I'll give you a very good example. While we were all coming to office and working, actually, in effect, Vaibhav and I would go for days without having met each other for more than 10 minutes here and there, because you're forever running around. And before the pandemic, it wasn't just running around within the city. We were forever traveling here and there by air. And that's completely changed. And
Hmm.
that's a huge difference over the past 2 years. I was just telling Vaibhav this, that, we've been kind of living out of suitcases and spending time like outside the city for so long that it's actually post pandemic we are talking to each other more often, maybe on a video. But we weren't definitely not doing FaceTime and video calls before the pandemic. We were forced to do it after, so we're seeing more of each other.
Could you please describe some projects that you had ongoing?
Well, there were some that we had that have actually we've completed a residence during the course of the lockdown. There are some
Okay.
projects that we had that disappeared because of the lockdown.
Okay.
And there are some new projects that have come up as a result of the lockdown.
Right.
So
Okay.
some of the big ones that existed before that continue today are we're designing a crematorium, a very large crematorium across about six and a half acres of land in Gurgaon.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
we are there are a couple of housing developments in slightly smaller towns, uh, Muzaffar, Muzaffarpur, and Banaras, which have come to a bit of a grinding halt.
Okay.
Um, on the other hand, we are now beginning to work with someone whom we worked with closely earlier, um, to develop these new minimal living, these backside of beyond wilderness glamping, camping, whatever you want to call it. this that this kind of back to nature that this lockdown has induced. So someone clearly sees some hospitality opportunities there. So we're working on this. Other than that, it's a stream of, there are some offices, there are some uh, standalone single plot residences, some farmhouses, that sort of thing. So that's the farmhouse type projects have gone up in their number after lockdown.
Okay.
Um, and I think I have a sense of why that is happening.
Okay.
But so we are here to cater to everyone's requirements, including the dead, thanks to the crematorium. So I think it's kind of goes into a long-standing uh, paranoia that the upper income groups have in our country. So they are both opportunistic and paranoid at the same time. So what I feel is that because of the shock to the real estate market, there was a clear kind of drop in the number of sales that were happening, and this is more for physical reasons, that the DM's offices, registrars offices weren't open, this and that. So huge drop in sale, because the real estate market in big cities is extremely speculative. It's got
Hmm.
nothing to do with stamp duties and stuff like that. So the market took a huge bashing. Immediately opportunities were seen that a lot of people, my sense is, uh, were doing well enough just prior to the pandemic for them to be able to invest a lot of that money into land in and around the city. Commercial was out of the question because clearly that was taking a bashing. So this sort of peri-urban farmhouse sort of land just got eaten up. In fact, I would say July onwards, we've got 5 or 6 inquiries for such projects, out of which we are, I think, doing 2 or 3 or something like that. So this whole idea of home has gone through a transformation also. If I think about it, I mean, I'm again, it's a very very small segment of our population that I'm talking about.
Right.
But it has definitely gone through a sort of a sea change in how my sense is how my clients see themselves at home,
Hmm.
and their kind of understanding of what home means. It's a little bit beyond work from home. It's a little bit
Hmm.
beyond the practicalities of having, Wi-Fi. The I think there are lots of reinventions happening. My own biorhythm has completely changed. I now eat probably 1.5 meals a day. So yeah, so projects, there have been projects that, but clearly the ones that were more speculative, clearly the ones that were relying on
Hmm.
um, funds that were not already in place but required buy-in from potential customers for that product or that piece of architecture. Let's call it that. So these developer-led
Okay.
projects have taken a bashing. Government-led projects are coming up. We made a couple of pitches for government projects also, I guess, because there is some pressure on government to spend, not necessarily in the context of pandemic, but generally they seem to be the only guys who are not nervous about spending money.
Sir, could you describe some challenges that you and your practice have faced during the pandemic? And also, did you have, would you be able to call certain things as fears that you faced during the pandemic?
Yeah, I think we closed down a little bit before the lockdown. Uh, so I think the
Okay,
lockdown was 23rd March. We were, I
March,
think,
correct.
it, we'd shut down by about the 15th of March, if I'm not mistaken, 14th, 15th.
Okay,
Uh, and that was on this general, I mean, if I recall the general sense then, um, one didn't want to face up to the fact that it was perhaps a permanent lockdown. But there was a very real sense that things were, I mean, this was a big one. And that's why, shutting down office made sense because it was just as a disease, so little was known about it. It was a very frightening disease. There was a general sense that, just the see we have a fairly young studio, so hanging out together is kind of like a important part of the studio experience.
okay,
So we didn't face up to the fact then that we may never come together in the numbers and for the amount of time uh, that we had been spending together, because it's a very lively studio that we run. So but we did shut it down with a sense that something big at that time, we were telling ourselves, most likely in a few months we'll come back and stuff. We certainly didn't expect the lockdown to last more than what was initially announced, like 15, 20 days or whatever. The
Hmm.
extensions were when the psychological effects of the uncertainties, the psychological effects of the more information about the virus started percolating, and you realize how horrifying the virus can be.
Hmm.
Um, Horrifying in that sort of proper horror movie way, full of suspense. You don't know whether you're going to die or whether it's just going to sweep by you and you won't even notice it. So it was I would say, a pretty good horror film, as long as it's lasted so far.
So, what is the situation now, Madhav, in office? Like people have come back and you have started in office?
Yeah, so it kind of, so I can discuss this in detail. We kind of adopted a wait and watch process after June because we were not really convinced by the unlock in June. We didn't, at least let me just say, there were differing thoughts in our top rung in our studio, which comprises of myself, Vaibhav, Shruti, and Khyati, the
okay,
four of us. And there were, in fact, it was, I would say, it was, there were very obviously, because everyone is speculating based on incomplete information because there is not enough known. But we just felt at a wait and watch. So
Hmm.
from that period, from June to September, October, when the slowly the from in Delhi, at least from 2,500 it went up to the point that in around Diwali it started hitting around 8,000, 8,500 daily cases. That was, we were looking at two basic things. We were looking at death rates and daily cases. Death
Hmm.
rates, if you guys know, has been reasonably decent in this country generally for whatever reason, but it's not a cause of alarm. But it's that spike in the new cases that was worrying us.
Right.
So we would kind of, so initially we didn't unlock uh, at all. Then we had resorted to using some softwares that allowed us to share our desktops and continue working. So all this preparation we were doing, researching, figuring it out during lockdown only, really speaking, towards the latter half of lockdown. So maybe April, May types, we were trying to figure out kya karna hai. Of course, there was the general sinking feeling that we were losing business, we were losing money. I mean, we were not in a very happy financial situation. Um, because I mean, obviously, everything come to a halt. So Given
Help it
that,
improve.
the only thing we could really focus on was how do we start working remotely in what's the most efficient ways. We have a certain level of tech in our office, servers and this and that helps us kind of utilize um, cloud and platform. I mean, these sharing, these desktop sharing software. So we kind of
Right.
work through that, and then once we said okay, we are beginning to get, see, because after unlock happened is when these inquiries started coming in, work started coming in slowly in trickle.
Okay.
And existing guys were saying okay, now let's start thinking about how we can move forward. So we worked remotely for a fair bit. Then that whole psychological effect sort of kicks in. So some folks in a studio felt that they couldn't really be productive at home
Mm.
for various personal reasons. So then they put in a request, we want to come and work in office. So then we said, okay, given that this is a rising, I mean, it's not flattening the curve. So we are lucky enough to have a very large office. So then we put a cap on the number of people who could occupy studio at any given point of time. We're also lucky in that we have glass partitioned rooms in our studio and we have a choice of meeting spaces. So we were able to generally tell people that other than these one or two people who feel they have to come to office to work, the others don't really need to at all. And if at all, they should come and they should coordinate it so that they come into office and use the meeting spaces and stuff and ensure that they're in and out of office, they're not hanging out. So the biggest
Right.
uh, difference is that no one's really, in a sense, hanging out in office.
Okay.
Now things are a little different because there's a drop. Now we've gone to a kind of, in the new infections are in their hundreds
Mm.
per so general, then so obviously those protocols we plastered. All our screensavers have wear masks, keep social distance, to me, wash your hands. We have it on posters all over our all this we did in preparation for unlock. We cleaned up our desks, had we used to have our office used to, it's a messy office. I've been to some very attractive art. I mean, not to say ours is ugly, but but generally we have these work desks that tend to pile up. Everyone personalizes by, I mean, the desktop that they have in physical reality is a personalization by creating a mess. That's what I call it. So everyone has their own mess around them.
Yeah.
You have to understand. See, the crazy thing about this virus and our understanding of it, I guess ours or mine, however you want to call it, I think of it as a Gandhian virus. you
Okay.
are supposed to you are supposed to uh, wear a mask not to protect yourself. You're supposed to wear a mask to prevent the other guy from catching it,
Others from right. Right.
right? So it's a very anti-intuitive disease for which doesn't fit well with the usual levels of human selfishness. It's very anti-intuitive towards that. People say new normal, old normal, are we ever going to go back and stuff? I'm a swimmer, so I used to swim almost every day before the lockdown.
Okay.
And one of the biggest changes in my lifestyle that I foresee is I don't think I'm going to see a pool for the next 5 or 10 years. I mean, unless I make friends with some super rich people who have their own pools, then I think I can get back to swimming.
Okay. So you briefly mentioned about challenges with monetary flow in your office. Could you describe them and what ideas or how are you how did you handle them during the lockdown? If you still have those challenges persisting, what ideas are
No,
you coming up?
luckily enough, we don't. So I think
Okay.
August, September onwards, we were taking. So the basic policy was everyone takes the same salary cut regardless.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so we were able to. I mean, everyone. Actually, no, that's incorrect. Everyone other than the partners, the principals,
Mm.
uh,
Right.
takes a uniform salary cut. The principals don't take salary. So the first few
Okay.
months, that was what we did. Then we were able to hike it up to saying 75%. We'll give, I think we gave 50% the first month. Let me just see. I don't remember right now whether we went 50% for a first couple of months, then 75, then 100, or whether it was just 75 and 100. But
Okay.
somewhere around September onwards, we've been all taking October maybe. We've all been taking full salaries. So
Okay. Right.
so we've recovered quite well. Look, it's like when you don't have a source of income, it's actually easier because there's no financial management to be done. So
Okay.
you just you we didn't have any provisions. It was just basically a salary cut, and whatever money we had, we spent on our overheads and ensuring that like the staff we didn't cut salary for the staff. I mean, the non-architect, non-studio staff. Yes, Sarthak and all these guys, the guys who help support us, Dikpal,
Okay.
and these guys, because many of them were, also really more vulnerable and more uncertain about their future. Should they go back to their village? Should they stay on? Should they, there's lots of questions. So to add to that, if we say we're also going to cut yours, and how much money are you going to save by cutting their salary? It's not like it's a large
Mm.
change. So didn't
Okay.
make sense. That's what we did. And I'm saying, I'm very, very aware that we are very lucky that we got good enough work soon enough after unlock for us to
Mm.
not be in dire straits. But it was tough, no doubt. For 2, 3 months, it was quite uncertain. It didn't seem very happy.
As you started resuming work during the unlocks, did you come up with new strategies for your work methodology, for your workflow?
Um, yeah, definitely. We in fact have created some very detailed protocols on our sites for our sites.
Okay.
Specifically, we're doing these two sites, two residential interior projects where in effect we are project managers also. So we needed to draw that up, and once we drew up those protocols, we were happy to share it with all our sites.
Okay.
uh,
Right.
so there is that, and this is based on safety, lots of different things. We even got protocols to hook up the site with CCTV camera if there is a lockdown again, and of that sense that maybe not lockdown, but you're able to you seriously don't want, the spikes are so high that you don't want more than one or
Mm.
two teams to work. You certainly don't want to be there supervising it all the time. So, is it possible to operate remotely with CCTV cameras where the site supervisor can do a WhatsApp call? We can have drawings. We were identifying drawing walls with camera positions in front of them so that you could, do this kind of Zoom call business of looking at the site. But yeah, so that stuff at office, we started off with immediately investing in a couple of things. One of them worked out, one of them not so much. We bought ourselves what do you call them, splash top licenses for us to share our desktops. We
Okay.
got
Okay.
ourselves Trello is a kind of collaborative, it's like Slack.
Right.
But
Right.
never really took off. Everyone still relies on WhatsApp.
Okay.
um,
Okay.
uh, but that was these two things. The splash top is something we continue to use very, very intensively.
So you were talking about the processes unique to your office,
Ah,
anagram,
so
and
so so one is materiality, one is generally concept, and design development is very, very verbal. There's a lot of discussion, presentation, that sort of thing.
uh,
Uh, like across, right? I mean, it's generally a very talkative studio. So that was one big this thing, and we realized that we couldn't achieve the same on these Zoom calls.
hmm,
uh, it's an important understanding to come to that, while we have got an alternative with this online sort of meeting sort of way, the lack of presence and body language and direct eye contact, it's actually very interesting to see how less efficient communication can be. And so something that would have taken, say, 10 minutes to discuss in office becomes a little bit longer, maybe 20 minutes or 15 minutes. uh, and this is not accounting for all the, logging in, logging off, network issues, those sorts of things. I mean, even if you're having a conversation, it kind of falls into this. There's an impairment which still
hmm.
persists. I can't say I'm perfectly happy. So, which is why the focus was that if you need to do work together, you try and figure out your process so that you are able to come together specifically to see. Earlier, we used to fight deadlines together.
Right.
That means you'd set up a deadline and then everyone would just pile in and stay there, whoever was on the team for that deadline, and just thrash it out together in studio till it's done and ready.
Right.
Everyone is
Okay.
forced to be a little more organized. There have to be ways in which you can hand over to someone else. Everyone doesn't work at the same time at home. Um, so the biggest change in the process is you need to kind of change, you need to define certain plug-in, plug-outs between people working together in studio, and what
Okay.
condition, what all should the drawing have for someone to successfully take things forward while you sleep or while you cook or while you, so because earlier we used to all come together in office at the same time, work and then go. Uh, and there were inefficiencies because we are such a talkative studio. We are, one could argue we are talking more and working less. Um, but now what the situation is, everyone has a different time zone, timeline. So they're coming online and they're doing their bit at a different time. So that's why we kicked in with this Trello so that we could keep track across, like, what is the thing. But that didn't really pick up finally in popularity. But my sense is design being the kind of beast that it is, it requires a certain sort of physical presence to discuss. I don't want to sound like like a Luddite, because I'm not. I do like technology and using it interestingly, but there is something to be said about this kind of physical presence, body language, being able to be more effective in your
So
communication
you
if you're
feel
all there
that
together.
you feel that physical presence for design process is must. At least in your office, you felt that.
Yeah, can't say, this is what I'm saying. I can't say it's a must because dare I say it's a must. Kya pata hai, we're never back to that level. Then I can't say I'm not going to design, right? So I think
I'm
there's a,
talking,
but how
yeah,
things
I'm talking
were,
about
what we were
anagram.
used to, yeah, what we were used to, our work processes, they've definitely had to take into account that we now have to think of ways to deal with these two problems. Firstly, non-physical presence, so lack of body language, communication gets impaired. And the second one is that you're not all working to the same target at the same time.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
No, it is also interesting that you mentioned that this has affected the efficiency in terms of communication, because during our research the other days we saw another instance where this has brought much more discipline to communication, which is digital meetings and connecting online during the
Yeah, I
pandemic.
would I would concur. I mean, it is a form of discipline because a discipline is a restriction of some kind. That's what defines discipline.
Right.
Um, and because of that restrictions, you create protocols to kind of work with that restriction. So, like I said, the I will definitely not deny it made us chop up the work process in a different sort of way, taking
Okay.
into account the fact that people are not available at the same time. So you can't have these bright bulb moments and quickly get someone to do something, or they have a bright bulb moment, they come and show us and say,
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you need to kind of think about, you don't think about a work day anymore as we used to. We think now we have to think about a work week.
Right. Right. Okay.
And if you are super excited that you want an immediate response on, well, sorry, you just have to wait till the guy comes back online. Whether it's me or whether it's one of my colleagues in studio, it's the same story.
Right. Now, sir, with regards to your projects that were ongoing, did you have some of them uh, involved in approval processes with development authorities? And did that process get influenced by the pandemic and lockdowns?
Yeah, there were a couple of, we're doing a sports school in Greater Noida. So that was in the process of getting various forms of sanction because it's a larger project. It needs various permissions
Okay.
beyond just a local body and beyond just development control sanction, building
Okay.
bylaw sanction.
Right. Right.
So that was ongoing, but we are lucky in that either we are working in such uh, rural or proto-urban sites that there is no sanction, or we are working in Delhi where everything is online and private projects up to a certain size you just need to submit online and they give you the go ahead on your own responsibility. So we're kind of plugging along on a really slow project, which is to design an akhada in Western UP. Now,
Okay.
the sanctioning process there is basically a conversation with the district magistrate. It's not really
Okay.
any
Hmm.
process, you know.
Right. Right.
So, so in those conditions, it's not been really hampered. We're working in near Banaras. We are working just in a couple of other these places. We're probably going to start another project in Ayodhya and something in Ludhiana. So these sorts of places, the more rural it is, you don't have sanctioning, but generally the project moves slowly because it's a rural project. So
So I've also observed that you've been a part of these off studio allied initiatives. Um, could you just tell us a little bit about that? And did that
yeah.
have an impact during the pandemic?
So one was so I'll give you off studio. Though I guess you can say there are two or three. One is a more design kind of collaborative, and that's we work very closely with a kind of interaction design studio. So we work, because we are designing a couple of these experience centers where now the flavor of the season is all these touchscreens, AR, VI, RF, proximity sensors. So if you walk past something, it triggers off something, and then you touch something and something else
Right.
happens, and that's what.
Right. Okay.
Now that's going on. They work out of Okhla. We work quite closely with them, and that's kind of like working with consultants. I mean, it's not a sub
Hmm.
consultancy; it's a collaborative in that sort of peer sort of way within the architectural zone.
Okay.
Uh, we do other work. So we are part of a group of organizations and individuals called Pakka.in. Yeah, PUCCA. In
Acha.
fact, the Akhada I mentioned is done under the aegis of Pakka only.
Right.
Pakka is basically makes the argument that I mean, I'm paraphrasing here. You can visit the website. There's a lot of written stuff about what the initiative is about. But to put it kind of succinctly, it's kind of born out of the belief that India is not necessarily urbanizing but de-ruralizing.
Hmm.
Okay. Okay.
There's a distinction in that there is actually a decay in the in rural India which needs to be addressed, which is separate from the problems of densification of urban area, which is so people are not coming to cities if from a happy place. They're not entering cities because they want opportunities. They're entering cities to escape near certain death in rural India.
Rural areas. Okay.
Uh, and what Pakka's motivation is that to say that it's actually not very unlike urban infrastructure, rural infrastructure is not necessarily what do you call it expensive. It doesn't need a lot of capital investment.
Right. Right.
Uh, so what Pakka is all about is basically trying to get a group of people to uh, incubate projects along. So we have partners in there's a group of young MPs across party lines who are part of this group where they say, okay, our constituency says we want to build this. I have the MP led funds, but I don't want to build them a white elephant that all MPs are practical people. They want to do things to win votes. The problem is when they do something in their constituency, then it becomes a white elephant. So they'll say, I'll build you this something like a toilet or something. And then the flush won't work. Then those guys will keep calling this guy and say, my flush doesn't work, my flush doesn't work, get it fixed, get it fixed. So it becomes a monkey on their back. And God forbid they don't fix it by the time of next election. Then they won't then they won't get voted again. So this was a little bit of a problem here. The interesting thing is there are a group of people of amongst us who are kind of forming the project, but the design work or the execution of the project is actually based on young volunteers who are students of architecture, engineering, whatever, who are looking to contribute in their immediate vicinity. So, like you are from Tamil Nadu, all these engineering colleges are in the middle of all like rural India, right? And they don't, when these guys, I don't know which college you went to, but I'm pretty sure if you were in one of these campuses outside Tiruchi, you would be hopping on a first bus to go to the nearest town so that you could hit the malls and the cinema halls and not be stuck on campus over the weekend. Whereas it's
Right.
very weird. you have such an immediate context where you can start delivering. And so we felt that this opportunity must be there, and we are all in positions where we can get young people. So there are people who, there are young economists, there are young lawyers, there are young anthropologists, there are lots of different types of people who help create
Okay.
that
Okay.
infrastructure program.
Right.
It gets incubated. Someone volunteers, says, I'll get it done. It's a 3 month. The whole thing is, it has to happen super fast. So you don't create a dependency. You get in, you do your business, and you leave. So we've done a couple of toilets. We've done a toilet outside Bodh Gaya under the aegis of Pakka, in a village called Durgapur. Another place in Bihar, we have converted a abandoned Anganwadi into a sort of a farmer training center in a place called
Okay.
Palanpur. So
Okay.
these are the kinds of projects. So the big project here is this Akhada. In fact, you'll see one video teaser online for it.
Okay.
Uh,
Right.
so that's something that we've been working on. The design is complete. Now we have to look for look to start rolling it out, figuring it out. Land is also been donated by some of the local farmers there. So it's a
Have
slow
their
process. It's a very
process been
different sort of
hampered?
process.
Okay.
No, I won't say that's been hampered. I think that is so slow, it just goes on. It survives such shocks. Um, the other interesting thing we've done is, I've actually worked very hard in the initial part of the complete lockdown with a couple of friends and this organization called Nasvi to create a app for street vendors. So that is rolled out. It's not like a Zomato or a Swiggy. It's not customer facing. It's more a app for the National Association of Street Vendors of India to be able to connect with their membership, which is about 15 lakh across the country, in a situation where they were in really bad shape. I mean, we spent the first half of this interview trying to figure out how badly hit architects were. But I've had the I would say good fortune, because it expands your mind, but the really sad experience of having to uh, listen to and see the kind of levels. I mean, we know that the urban migrants went through a tough time, and
Yes.
we've seen footage of that. But until you actually have conversations with these folks, it doesn't hit home so viscerally.
Right.
It's the levels of desperation, which is, I mean, it's unimaginable.
Okay.
um, so the whole thing was to try and strengthen Nasvi's organizational abilities by giving them a vendor registry app that allows them to communicate. So they are able to tell them that, look, we're coming with relief to this area at this time. Please assemble here, come and pick up your packets. Or that the local SDM of this area, this market in this city is allowing you to do this vending and social distancing. Come here, and we will tell you. Then we send them video clips of how to do protocols, safety protocols. We are currently in the process of developing a new cart design which has very visible safety protocols, so that people are assured, their clientele are assured. We are further working on another aspect of this app, which will eventually hopefully be client facing, so that in your area you're able to track your local vendors and source, they can come and home deliver it. So that's another completely, like, non-architectural, but very much an urban intervention that we are working on separately.
We have one last question for you,
Hmm.
which is briefly what I mentioned earlier. So, what would you point out as the learnings from the pandemic at a personal level?
Yeah, I think it's been a very, I mean, it sounds like I'm accepting an Oscar award, but it's been a very humbling experience. So the first thing is that, before the pandemic, everything was devoted to work. I mean, like, we're running a successful architectural practice, then somehow, that takes primacy over everything else. Your own health, your own the happiness of your own family members, everything gets sacrificed on that altar. We are not very nice people to live with, I can say. Architects, which is perhaps the reason why architects tend to marry architects. And the thing is that, humbling in that sense, that first there is this decentering of the work that we are doing. Like, I'm talking about myself, like, I run my own practice. That's suddenly not so important. There are things that have further more important. The second thing is that my biorhythm, my lifestyle. Like I said, I used to be a fairly I mean, I used to cycle and swim every day. So I'm only cycling now, and that's had a definite change in my metabolism. I can feel it. I feel less hungry. I used to be completely ravenous all the time. That's not the case anymore. My sleep patterns have changed. I feel extraordinarily sleepy right about now. And then sometimes I kind of stay awake till late. Um, Beach May, they went through a crisis when after we started working and we were trying to work remotely, everything became a blur. Then briefly, I started going to office after hours. So I'd actually do a full, I think this was in August, September. I would do a full day's work, but I would go into office only about 4 o'clock or 4:30. So I'd kind of overlap with other people for a couple of hours and then they'd leave and then I would continue to work late into the night. I'm lucky enough to like be within like 5 minutes. I mean, like I can cycle to work and back.
Hmm.
So I can kind of go in and out at any time of the day and night. So um, and it's, I mean, the office is a I mean, it still provides me a lot of comfort. I rely on it, like you saw with scheduling this thing. I do rely on my office backend quite heavily.
Okay.
um but it's lost that physical centrality.
Okay.
Then my own life, I think I would say the personal humbling experiences that, yeah, suddenly for me other people's lives have become more important than my own. Not in a dramatic Bollywood sort of way. I'm very
Okay.
happy to be alive, but suddenly what's happening in other people's lives become more important. I just took a month off to go spend some time with my parents and my grandmother. So that was very gratifying. um, and before that it was the usual spoiled brat behavior. You never call, you don't care, that that sort of thing. So there's obviously a realignment in those terms. And like I said, I truly believe this is a Gandhian disease. It forces you to think about the other person. Good. If you want to stay safe, think about the other person.
So, Varun, before you close, I think, Madhav, do you think that this pandemic will also have a larger impact on the way architectural practice is happening, not just in India, across the world? And
Yeah,
what changes do you see would happen?
I think we are going to witness a very interesting death to the city.
How?
If
How? Please elaborate.
I think that there was a certain morbidity to a city life because of
Yeah.
lifestyles, right? If you live in a city, heart disease, cancer, stress, uh,
Yeah.
unstable social life, unstable family lives, psychological issues, uh, sedentary lifestyle, uh, you know, uh, many such ills. So we were dying in our cities, pollution, um, and that was a very clear thing. Now, and there the thing was, we're kind of hurtling down this path of death. Uh, in the face of the planet dying, also climate crisis, biodiversity loss, all these sorts of things. Mm, Now I do believe we are going to begin to see the death of the city, not the citizen. In the current formulation of what the city is, call it the formal city, call it the real estate city, call it the millennium city, call it the business hub, whatever you want to, these imaginations of cities that we have. Um, because my sense is that there is definitely going to be a greater emphasis on providing greater coverage of connectivity across all urban to rural. I mean, there is a prioritization to spread because now, given the pandemic, a lot of relief, given climate change, information reaching remotest parts of the country is a very important thing. You have a tsunami or a cyclone. How do you get in touch with people? So if communications become better, and this is not just roads, I'm talking about telecommunications.
Hmm.
um,
Okay.
that is what people are discovering, that I can be sitting in the middle of a really like complete, not even rural, I would say, uh, wilderness.
Hmm.
uh, and through various satellite technologies I can get some pretty decent connectivity, depending, obviously, or at least it's conceivable to be able to do that. um, and therefore you're no longer tied to the city. Like we are certainly clearly not tied to our offices anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the
Okay.
next step is, that you start questioning everything. Why must I have a house? One house. Why can I not be more? And this is, of course, again, I'm repeating, this is for a very privileged and a very small part of our society. But these are questions that come to my mind. Like having spent a month in Chennai, and having been able to connect with my office and work quite successfully, I'm seriously considering, why do I need to go back? I mean, in any sort of like day to day, everyday basis. Sure. I mean, it's not like I'm never going to go back to office, but it
Yeah.
changes my relationship with office, right? I mean, the whole thing is, like I said, that there was a certain imperative of personal interaction that was the foundation of our studio. And that has been affected. But whatever it transforms into, I certainly don't see that it necessarily needs to link in beyond
True.
a certain point to a physical presence. Because I'll give you a very good example. While we were all coming to office and working, actually, in effect, Vaibhav and I would go for days without having met each other for more than 10 minutes here and there, because we were forever running around. And before the pandemic, it wasn't just running around within the city, we were forever traveling here and there by air. And that's completely changed. And
Hmm.
that's a huge difference over the past 2 years. I was just telling Vaibhav this, that, we've been kind of living out of suitcases and spending time like outside the city for so long, that it's actually post pandemic we are talking to each other more often, maybe on a video. But we weren't definitely not doing FaceTime and video calls before the pandemic. We were forced to do it after, so we're seeing more of each other.